After nearly 2 decades, Nintendo's heavenly hero is ready to fly again. This is Kid Icarus for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and what this game started, Nintendo has finally resurrected. I think I speak for a large segment of the gaming populace when I say, it's about time. Obviously, we'd be neglecting a huge piece of the Kid Icarus story if we didn't acknowledge the inexplicable sabbatical forced upon this franchise. In fact, Kid Icarus was barely a franchise at all. After this debut and a lone sequel for the original Game Boy, Nintendo made the baffling decision to clip its wings. And as the years turned to decades, it seemed they'd never grow back. But what once was lost has now been resurrected, or perhaps more fittingly, uprisen. And as fans celebrate the long overdue return of a Nintendo icon who never got his dues, what better time than now to give him precisely that? It may not be on quite the same level as its first-party NES peers, but make no mistake, Kid Icarus is an old-school classic, very worthy of renewed interest. One of the most striking aspects of Kid Icarus is how similar it still feels to its sister game, the original Metroid. Both games were developed by Nintendo's R&D 1 team, they both ran on the same engine, and they were released within just a year of each other. Even today, the two share an inextricable bond, not to mention a few notorious enemies, so if you've played Metroid, you have a pretty good idea what to expect from Kid Icarus. Just substitute aliens for Greek gods, free exploration for mostly vertical side-scrolling, and, of course, the beloved heroine Samus Aran for the suddenly resurgent Pit. Of course, relative to Samus Aran, Pit's star isn't quite as bright, but he's still a cool character, and I think the young angel's ample charm is a big part of the reason he was never forgotten. Not to mention that, among Nintendo's top mascots, he has a pretty unique set of abilities as well. Like Nintendo Power once raved, Pit can jump like Mario, collect items like Link, and shoot like Samus. An assessment of the character's attributes, which also says a lot about his game. And like Pit himself, Kid Icarus feels a lot like a combination of Nintendo's biggest and brightest classics from the NES era. Kid Icarus is a platformer that's easy to see, and frankly there's nothing new or extraordinary about that. But what is special about Kid Icarus is that, unlike most side-scrolling platformers from the era, it mostly scrolls upward. And that's always been a trademark of the game. Jumping across clouds against a backdrop of the heavens, it really gives the platforming a fittingly skyward sense of both towering height and frightening peril. Because he can't fly, a single fall generally spells Pit's doom. And in that respect, Kid Icarus kinda shares some DNA with Super Mario Bros. Only it's much more difficult. In fact, difficult is the operative word with Kid Icarus. And while the game shares a lot in common with Nintendo's Big Three, it definitely distinguishes itself in that regard. This game is much more challenging than Mario, Zelda, or Metroid. But thankfully there are plenty of secret passwords and codes to help you defeat Medusa. And I am not ashamed to use them. In addition to the game's super challenging gameplay and charming characters, its distinct theme and aesthetics also give it that decidedly Nintendo feel, yet they make Pit stand out among his heroic peers as well. The whole ancient Greek vibe is in obvious contrast to Mario's colorful Mushroom Kingdom, Link's forested Hyrule, and Samus's dark vision of space, yet as distinct as it seems, Pit's world also fits in. It's got the same Nintendo charm, the same character, it just feels right. And that's why grown men stood up and cheered when Kid Icarus Uprising was announced for the Nintendo 3DS. That's why people were so excited about the prospect of returning to a world they hadn't been to in 20 years. A world so memorable, so distinct, that it was never forgotten. Neither was Kid Icarus, and for very, very good reason.